Good evening and welcome to the April 8th regular meeting of the Evanston City Council, which will be a little adventure-y. I just want to apologize for and explain the delay, and explain also the kind of question before us. At this time, owing to actually a bunch of apparently unrelated medical issues, we do not have an in-person quorum. Between this room and online, we have a numerical quorum, but that is insufficient from the standpoint of state law to conduct business. So that's a pickle. The mitigating factor is that the first several items on our agenda do not require official action and therefore do not require a quorum. So we're going to plow ahead, making our way all the way through to the end of SP1, during which time staff will be working with members of council to figure out if there's a medically responsible way for us to conduct the rest of the meeting. And we'll keep you posted. But in the meantime, we'll proceed with the at least initial section of the meeting as planned and scheduled. So with that unusual preamble, would the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Harris.
Present.
Councilmember Nguyen. Councilmember Nusma.
Here.
Councilmember Burns. Here. Councilmember Sufferton. Councilmember Ravel.
Here.
Councilmember Reed. Councilmember Harakaris.
Here.
And Councilmember Kelly. Mayor Biss.
Here. As indicated, we do not have a quorum present in the room, and so may not conduct formal business, but we'll continue with the portion of the meeting that does not require formal business, beginning with my public announcements and proclamations, of which there are two. The first is relative to Arbor Day 2024. Whereas trees are a resource that improve the quality of life of community members, help to mitigate against some of the impacts of climate change, improve air quality, and help to reduce energy consumption. And whereas trees are a critical component of this ecosystem that provide natural habitat for wildlife and other plants. And whereas an ongoing collaboration between community members and the city to work towards a healthier urban forest that contributes to a more resilient community is a benefit to all people in the city, the region, and beyond. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska and is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas Arbor Day is celebrated in Illinois on the last Friday of April, and whereas Evanston has been a Tree City USA since 1985 and has only increased its commitments to trees and other green infrastructure, now therefore I do hereby proclaim the last Friday of April 2024 as Arbor Day in the city of Evanston and urge all community members to support efforts to protect our trees, to support our city's urban forestry program, to participate in activities related to Arbor Day, and plant trees to promote the well-being of present and future generations. And this will be presented to the appropriate people at the appropriate time, but I wanted the whole community to be aware of this. And we move forward now with Parkinson's Disease Awareness Month. And I know there are many people in the audience who are here for this, and I want to, first of all, thank you for your advocacy on this important issue. Second of all, thank you for your presence tonight to help shine a light on this issue. And third of all, thank you for your patience. And so with that, whereas Parkinson's disease is a chronic progressive neurological disease and is the second most common neurodegenerative disease in the United States, and whereas Parkinson's disease is estimated to affect approximately 1 million Americans, and the prevalence will more than double by 2040, with 90,000 new cases diagnosed each year in the United States. And whereas Parkinson's disease is the fastest growing neurological disease in the United States, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And whereas it is estimated that the economic burden of Parkinson's disease is at least $51.9 billion annually, with $25.4 billion attributable to direct medical costs, such as hospitalizations and medication, and $26.5 billion in non-medical costs, like missed work, lost wages, early forced retirement, and family caregiver time. And whereas research suggests the cause of Parkinson's disease is a combination of genetic and environmental factors, but the exact cause and progression of the disease is still unknown. And whereas there is no cure or drug to slow or halt the progression of the disease, and whereas the symptoms of Parkinson's disease vary from person to person and can include tremors, slowness of movement and rigidity, difficulty with balance, swallowing, chewing, and speaking, cognitive impairment and dementia, mood disorders, and a variety of other non-motor symptoms. And whereas volunteers, researchers, caregivers, and medical professionals are working to improve the quality of life of persons living with Parkinson's disease and their families. And whereas increased research, education, and community support services such as those provided by the Davis Phinney Foundation, Michael J. Fox Foundation, Parkinson's Foundation, and other organizations are needed to find more effective treatments and to provide access to quality care to those living with the disease today, now therefore I do hereby proclaim the month of April 2024 as Parkinson's Awareness Disease Month in the city of Evanston. And again, thank you very much for being here. And if you want to come forward, I'd love to present this proclamation to the advocates who made this happen. If you want someone on our team to take a photo, everybody can be in it.
Mayor, they come back here.
Oh, more space. Sorry. Instructions to come back here.
Me.
I always look better when I'm walking. That concludes my announcements and proclamations. The next item on the agenda is the city manager's public announcements.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I would like to call Sarah Fiorito up to the podium. Sarah started on March 18th as our new Transportation and Mobility Coordinator. She was born and raised in Evanston and has already been working hard to ramp up, meet with staff, and make connections with our many partners. Sarah, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, such a pleasure and honor to be here, Mayor, Council, residents of the city of Evanston. It is truly an honor as someone who was raised here and also has lived in many other places to come back home and bring a lot of the work and experience and skills and knowledge that I have built in my time away and also in the city of Chicago close by. To be able to apply that here is truly an honor and very exciting. I just want to say that the city of Evanston has an incredible foundation. There is so much potential and possibility here because of all the good work that city staff, former councils, current council, and residents have put into the work here. One of my focuses is going to be on collaboration, both internally with the City of Evanston staff, with residents, and also with our many partners and also municipalities, working on connectivity, working on making transportation options for our community as high quality as possible, just to give people those options that people really want to have. And also to meet the goals that the City of Evanston has, whether it's economic goals, equity goals, sustainability goals, access goals, health. Really, we could just go on and on and on in every direction. So it is truly an honor to be here. If you have any suggestions, ideas, please reach out.
Okay. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Councilmember Burns.
Actually,
first, would the clerk please add Councilmember Burns to the roll? Councilmember Burns.
Just wanted to say congratulations to us as a city. I think it's always great when you can attract folks that grew up in a town back to the town to work here. I think that says a lot about what's happening here in Evanston, that people want to work here. and be a part of what many people have contributed to over the years. I would love for the Fifth Ward to be the most walkable, bikeable ward in the city. We have some existing TIF districts and some other access to funds that can help with developing that infrastructure. And so I'll be in touch. We'll get to work, but congratulations.
Yeah, welcome aboard. It's excited to get to work together. The next item on the agenda is communications from the city clerk.
No communications at this time.
The next item on the agenda is public comment. This evening, there are not more than 15 people seeking to give public comment, if I have the arithmetic right. And therefore, everyone will be given the full 3-minute allotment. We begin, as always, with those who signed up on this piece of paper to speak in person, beginning with Ilya Shaman, who will be followed by Ray Friedman, and then Jack Mortel.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. My name is Ilya Shaman. I'm a resident of the Fifth Ward. I will not take up the whole 3 minutes, I expect. I wanted to come here today just to share support for the temporary shelter for new arrivals. I come here as a resident of the Fifth Ward, raising kids and a family in the Fifth Ward, but also as somebody whose family arrived here 30 plus years ago as asylum seekers ourselves, as refugees, and who's seen the power of a welcoming community and a welcoming government in creating opportunities for families like my own. It's worth noting the problem we're facing right now was not created by this community, right? Decades of failures by the federal government to build a fair, humane, functional immigration system led to where we are. Plus this wild plot over the past couple of years by Republicans to bus folks in to places where there aren't the services that they need. And so we've seen nearly 40,000 people come to Chicago just in the past couple of years. And the city of Chicago reach out to neighboring communities for help. And the help is not needed because we can't absorb these people. In that same 2 years, we saw about 30,000 Ukrainians arrive in the Chicago area. We don't hear much about that because there was a functional resettlement program for them. But there isn't one for folks who've traveled hundreds or thousands of miles with their possessions on their backs across the southern border. And so that's where we find ourselves. And the question is whether we can lend a helping hand and welcome folks with dignity. And I hope that's the opportunity the City Council takes up today and in the months ahead. In addition to my role living here, I also volunteer as a board member for Refugee One, largest refugee resettlement organization in the city. I come here in a personal capacity, but I do have some experience volunteering with resettlement efforts. And the truth is, the reason what's proposed here is so important is twofold. One is, it doesn't cost anything, right? We're asking you to go out there and seek a grant to help explore the possibility of housing folks who have nowhere else to go. Folks who are looking for a roof over their heads, a place to educate their kids, provide opportunities for their families. But two is because what's on the table is temporary housing, housing for folks immediately when they arrive. And the reason that's so critical is because the migrants arriving now are coming without the support network refugees have historically had. And so what we need are facilities that can offer wraparound services, the ability to help apply for a work permit if someone's eligible, the ability to access healthcare, benefits, find long-term housing, find access to the supports they need. And so I hope as a first step, the City Council pursues this option, figures out a way that Evanston can live in to our identity as a welcoming town, to welcome folks with dignity and to see this as a value add for the city. This is not either or. This is not a limited pie. This is the chance to bring in additional resources to help people build a home in this community we call home. So thank you so much, and I hope you support this effort.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Ray Friedman, who will be followed by Jack Mortel, and then Carlos Sutton.
Good evening. This is a strange city council meeting here. I was here 2 weeks ago and came a little bit late, and it was packed, so I didn't get a chance to do it. So this is public comment from 2 weeks ago, and now half of the council's not here. Strange. First, before I start my public comment, I just want to give a quick shout out to Mike Vasilko and hope he gets well soon and hope he's able to come back and join us soon if he's listening. So Before we discuss, I've said this before we discuss Envision 2045, we need to decide what our priorities and goals now for 2024. What's our plans now for 2024? Why did we purchase Little Beans? How much is remodeling for Little Beans? Why did we purchase 7 houses on Jackson and Emerson and then knock them down, including many healthy trees? And now what's the plan for Emerson and Jackson? It's been more than a year, I guess. We have cracked floors at Robert Crown that should not be cracked. If any of you paid $50 million for a building and the floors were cracked, I wouldn't accept it. So Fountain Square, what are we doing with Fountain Square? $7 million for a fountain that doesn't work. How about our plan for City Hall here? We're going to give it to the migrants that are coming in, and yet we're going to pay $2.5 million a year for rent somewhere else. That doesn't make any sense to me, I'm sorry. What happened also for 909 Davis, you were found guilty of violation of Open Meetings Act. So did we have a meeting for 909 Davis? Did we have a meeting with the residents? And what were the residents' feedback? Okay. So what's the plan for the residents on Wesley? They just all get kicked out because it wasn't maintained by City of Evanston. And I don't get it. We should not be renting anything or buying anything without resident approval. Residents need to be part of the discussion and the process. Why did our budget go from $293 million to $438 million in 3 years? You're borrowing $25 million from Illinois water funds, $29 million in new general obligation bonds. Don't forget about the $22 million. We need to remodel the art center. And how much did we pay a consultant to come up with that estimate? Do you know we have settled 5 lawsuits in the first 3 months of this year? Okay, maybe we can ask for $1.2 billion as Brandon Johnson did. So I ask once again, what's your plan?
Thank you
and
very
what's
much.
your priorities now for 2024?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Jack Mortel, who will be followed by Carla Sutton and then Jim Young.
Good evening. My name is Jack Mortel, retired captain of Evanston Fire Department and current president of the Evanston Firefighters Pension Board. Lifelong resident of Evanston, currently in the First Ward. I'm here to champion short-term and long-term property tax relief. I'm sure we all like that. Last July 24th, this council unanimously passed a groundbreaking resolution and 100% pension funding policy for Evanston public safety pensions. Finally, the city was on a path toward full funding of public safety pensions by 2040, a true path. The policy had been developed over many months of work by Evanston's Budget and Finance Committee and passed unanimously by that committee. This policy provided short-term tax relief by holding level the tax levy for the public safety pensions year to year and correctly using the maximum allowable, that's right in the policy, maximum allowable personal property relief tax, otherwise known as PPRT, funds received from the state of Illinois to bridge from that 9% tax levy to reach 100% or more. That's the language, 100% or more of the city's actuarial determined contribution. The long-term tax relief was astounding. The first 100% funding had the effect of over a $26.6 million reduction of the public safety funds debt. That's huge. But within 2 months of the passage in October 2023, apparently the city's finance department decided to override this council's unanimous vote and started diverting the allowable PPRT to the general fund rather than to the public safety pensions. The amount of this allowable PPRT that was diverted after the passage of the resolution is nearly $1.3 million. I gave the members of the Budget and Finance Committee thumb drives with all the documentation of this diversion last month, and I also gave it to the head of Evanston City's Finance Department in late February at the quarterly firefighters pension meeting. I'm shortly out of time here, but I intend to further speak to this at the Budget and Finance Committee tomorrow night and hope to put an end to this shell game by the city's financial department staff that continues to treat the funding of public safety pensions as a political football. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Carla Sutton, who will be followed by Jim Young and then Nora DeCruz.
Good evening. Carla Sutton, Fifth Ward. First, I want to say I am totally opposed to this proposal that you're looking to go into partnership with Connections to provide housing for immigrants. There are enough landlords in the Fifth Ward and the Second Ward to keep registered voters in their homes and in this community without having to send or spend all this money on renovating this building and the one on Church Street. I think it's a waste of time, and it's a total slap in the face to people who have been paying taxes in this community all these years, but never have access to any kinds of assistance when these programs become available. Next, I also would like to thank the previous guy who mentioned you have to have a comprehensive program when people come and settle here as migrants. Throwing them in certain conditions only escalates the problem. Think about what you're doing. Do not be involved in Connections providing any kind of services for these immigrants. Meet with us local landlords in this community to provide the housing that is needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Jim Young, who will be followed by Nora DeCruz.
Thank you, Mayor Biss, for reading and accepting our proclamation for Parkinson's Awareness Month. My name is Jim Young, and I was diagnosed with Parkinson's almost 4 years ago. Parkinson's is a neurodegenerative disease. Unfortunately, there's no cure, and the drugs currently available only mask the symptoms, and they do not address the underlying impact of the disease. Basically, what you can do to alleviate the progression is to exercise. But in the U.S., there's about 1 million people who are officially diagnosed with Parkinson's, making the second most prevalent neurological disease after Alzheimer's. But you've got over 90,000 people who are diagnosed each and every year, and so it's the fastest growing neurological disease that we're confronted with. I'm an optimistic person by nature, and there are many exciting research studies, drug trials, etc. In my opinion, will lead to a cure for Parkinson's, just like we've experienced with polio and with smallpox. But to eliminate Parkinson's will require increased attention and focus by governments around the world, research-based universities, and investment from the private sector. Tonight, I am here to raise awareness of Parkinson's and ask you and others in the Evanston community to please contact our 2 U.S. Senators, Tammy Duckworth and Dick Durbin. The reason it is critically important to contact our senators that there's pending legislation that has already passed the Republican-controlled House, but is sitting in committee in the Democratic-controlled Senate. The legislation is called the National Plan to End Parkinson's Act, and it's asking for $0. That's right, $0. Let's get this legislation passed by the Senate and put it on President Biden's desk this Thursday, April 11th, which is World Parkinson's Day. April 11th is the birthday of Dr. James Parkinson, the British doctor who identified the disease. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Nora DeCruz.
Sorry about that. I do not actually have any comments.
In that case, that concludes the list of speakers who signed up on this sheet to speak in person. We now move on to those who signed up online to speak in person, beginning with Daniel Joseph, who will be followed by Deborah Michaud, and then Dion Blanco. Is Daniel Joseph here? Seeing not, we'll move ahead with Deborah Michaud, who will be followed by Dion Blanco.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Michaud. I'm a resident of the 9th Ward and founder of a new nonprofit called Refugee Support Chicago. I've been working for the past couple years with residents, with refugees, and for the past year with our new neighbors who are asylum seekers. And in this work, I've discovered exactly what Ilya discussed about the discrepancy between refugees and asylum seekers. And I actually, last year, and for the past couple years since the Ukraine war started, I started my work with refugees, actually working with Ukraine, went to Ukraine, did a lot of work with refugees from Ukraine, and the discrepancy is just shocking. Our new migrants coming from the southern border have nothing, and they're getting no resettlement services. They're getting, they don't have the ability to work, whereas, so actually now our organization will support refugees and asylum seekers from any country, but the Ukrainians here don't need support. They get enough. We're available to them. I even reach out to their community centers and I reach out to them, and they don't need our help because they're getting it. So I plead with you guys to, it's the city of Chicago has taken on an inordinate burden. And it's time for the suburbs to step up. The city of Evanston has a distinguished history in civil rights and supporting social justice, one I should be very proud of. And this is an opportunity to stick by this legacy and to build upon it with our current humanitarian crisis. As the founder of Refugee Support Chicago, I will offer any support. I would love to help resettlement efforts and help welcome our new neighbors. And I brought one family who's the next speaker with me, who I've been working with. And she's learning English, and so she's a little nervous about speaking on the mic, so I'll stay with her, and if she needs me to translate, I'll help. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Dion Blanco.
I invited her to speak because she puts a human face to the challenge. Do you want to speak?
A little. Okay. Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Dionindra Blanco. I'm immigrant. I'm single mom. I'm arrived here for 8 months ago, and I live in a shelter. And when I arrive here, my first goal is my legal papers, permits work, social secure. So immediately when I live in a shelter, I don't know where is the school for my child, my kids. And so my first goal is study. I'm studying now in Truman College, work and clean house. So I'm help her.
Oh, she's an amazing volunteer. So she helps with our organization. She volunteers multiple times a week. And she's just been amazing. And we have so many stories like this. This is just one of many hundreds that we've met who are just wonderful assets, and they will be wonderful neighbors and assets to our community. And also, do you want to mention how you got here?
Yeah.
She had to carry this little guy through 5 countries.
Yeah, no, 7 countries.
7.
Yeah, I'm walking for a jungle for 5 days and 4 nights. Only me and my kids, other people, I don't know who is the people, I don't know. Only walking for the country, and I'm sleeping. I'm sleep in a terminal, waiting for the next bus. I'm scary, really. I feel scared in Mexico because the police all the time me perseguían, me buscaba la policía.
Oh, they chased you?
Because I'm immigrant, so the police don't like immigrants. So when I arrive here is for CPB1. I'm a little legal. I'm no for frontier, no. I'm CPB1 and I arrive here. I'm coming here, yeah?
Yeah.
So it's for 1 month walking with my babies. In Mexico, some amens robbers me. All, everything. And I I'm worked cook arepa. This is food in Venezuelan. Every morning I get up early with my kids and sell arepa. When I get money, I continue my travel. So I'm happy because I'm. Why did you come here? Because my country is real it's hard because the president and government is dictator, you know, is I'm feel prisionera. Oppressions. I can live with my kids because I'm single mom, and I can live with a $13 for month. This is a paid in my work, and I can live. I can pay food. I can live. About the danger too. But it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. I have a case. Some people robbed my cars, and my son with arms in my head is traumatic for me. Yeah, that's why this is my reason, real reason. Scary, real scary, and I think, okay, I gotta go. It's time. I gotta go. So thank you so much, because I know every immigrant is different people. So I think I'm a good person. Yeah. So I'm going to live here for a line, accept the rules, because I want to live here for my kids and for me. So thank you so much for all in. Thank you, Deborah, because she helped me everything. Thank you.
Thank you to all three of you. That concludes the in-person portion of public comment. We'll now move on to the Zoom portion, beginning with Sergio Hernandez, followed by Maureen Kelly, and then Betty.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, as well as council members. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. A pleasure to be here with you all. I hope our colleagues get better. Just heard you say that again, y'all didn't inform because folks are a bit sick. Hope they all get better. Again, I'm Sergio Hernandez. I am the board president of School District 65, 8th Ward resident. And I was also part of the Evanston Welcoming City Coalition that got our city to align with the Illinois Trust Act to protect our migrant folks here in Evanston. Just wanted to talk a bit about the proposed migrant shelter that we'd like to have here in Evanston. I was also part of the push to fund our welcoming city, our welcoming center, which is now run by Family Focus. So as board president, I just want to ask the city to collaborate and coordinate with our school district, as you always do, on delivering educational and wraparound services should the shelter move forward, and to also expand affordable housing options for our Black community. I think we can do both of these things, and I think we've been working on that. And again, I think what we see out there in communities where we're seeing migrants is this division that shouldn't be happening, right? I think Black and Brown communities both share a common struggle. And again, the common struggle here in Evanston is affordability. So I think we can do both, right? We can explore both affordable housing, which I know the city council is doing, but also, again, try to create a process that we can welcome our new migrant families to our community. So again, I ask that we will work with Family Focus, along with Connections to the Homeless, to partner with our Oak Park Area Migrant Resettlement Task Force friends. Again, Oak Park has a lot of experience in helping resettle folks, and really to learn about how we can create a migrant resettlement process that is based on mutual aid and collaboration and coordination to house not only migrant families, but also, again, also work towards expanding affordable housing opportunities. We should also reach out to our state and federal legislative delegations to help us in this endeavor to increase and sustain our city's valuable assets of our racial, cultural, and economic diversity. Thank you for listening, and I hope you all have a great rest of the night and a great meeting.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Maureen Kelly, who will be followed by Betty and then Jacqueline Eddy. I believe there's not a Maureen Kelly in the Zoom. If that's wrong, please raise your hand. But if I'm right, then we'll move ahead with Betty.
Good evening. Sorry, I was just trying to get myself settled in there. Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Betty Alzamora. I am a resident of Forest Park out in the western suburbs. I'm a longtime immigration volunteer and advocate in the city in Chicago and the western suburbs. And today I'm speaking on behalf of the Oak Park Area Migrant Resettlement Task Force. We are an all-volunteer mutual aid effort where over the last 5 months, we've learned some crucial and critical lessons from helping to successfully resettle 201 migrants in our area. Our North Star has been very clear. We have focused on securing stable homes through longer-term rentals and other opportunities. This approach not only provides migrants with a dignified living situation, but also helps them to build a crucial credit history through leases that are in their name. Our efforts have extended beyond the initial temporary shelters. We've ensured access to essential legal services and robust case management through assorted organizations and nonprofits, all of which has been crucial for navigating the complexities of asylum, temporary protected status, and work permit applications. This comprehensive support system has underscored our belief in the importance of a stable foundation for successful resettlement. Our experience has taught us that while temporary shelters might offer a quick fix, they come with challenges and are not a substitute for the dignity and safety of a home. From day one, our focus has been on securing long-term housing options, proving more effective and cost-efficient than the temporary setups that we saw in our community. And so we encourage you to think and consider thinking along those lines. We advocate for a resettlement approach that centers on the voices and the needs of the migrant community. This includes involving the migrants and the members of the Latina community in Evanston and beyond in planning and decision-making, leveraging the expertise and the experience and the passion of so many volunteers, and exploring partnerships with local leaders and your municipalities. Such collaboration can only lead to innovative resettlement models that benefit everyone involved. And so from the Oak Park perspective, as we reflect on our journey and prepare for future and next steps, our commitment to this work remains incredibly strong. We're dedicated to refining our approach and supporting communities like all of you in Evanston in your resettlement efforts. Please consider us as a trusted partner. We'd love to sit with you and share ideas. This can absolutely be a both and moment. It's not just to be able to help one segment of our underserved population. We believe that together with you, we can all make a significant difference in the lives of everyone that is seeking a new beginning. I wish continued health to the members of the board, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Jacqueline Eddy, who will be followed by Ellie Shevik.
Hi, my name is Jackie Eddy. I'm wanting to speak on support for the temporary shelter. I live in the First Ward. I've lived in Evanston for over 40 years. I love Evanston's unique beauty and character. The physical beauty of Evanston I love is at times breathtaking, perched on the shores of Lake Michigan with 6 public beaches and over 300 acres of public land, encompassing 97 sites with 76 parks and 50 playgrounds. The Evanston I love has thriving arts, cultural, and food scenes to enjoy. It also offers a ton of outdoor activities for the whole family, cultural, artistic activities, great restaurants, and fantastic breweries. With a vision to create the most livable city in America, the Evanston I love is a vibrant community made up of many strong neighborhoods, and community members celebrate and value the diversity of races, religions, and levels of income within our city's 7.78 square miles. The Evanston I love strives to be welcoming and inclusive. It strives for excellence and equity. It's friendly, open-minded community that cares. Residents look out for each other and work together to build a society where we're able to keep each other safe. Since 2008, Evanston has been a sanctuary city. In December 2016, Mayor Tisdall and the City Council voted unanimously to reaffirm the Welcoming City Ordinance. October 2017, Mayor Haggerty signed an updated ordinance, approved unanimously by our City Council. The City of Evanston welcomes diversity and believes that all individuals living in or visiting the City of Evanston should be treated fairly and with respect and dignity, were the words in that document. So it's one thing to say we are a welcoming city. It's another thing to be one. In the Evanston I love, everyone has an opinion, along with their ideas of the way that they think things ought to be done. As Mayor Biss has stated in the past, the diverse array of passionate voices is part of what makes Evanston, Evanston. But it can also derail our ability to make progress unless those views are heard and included. Often the Evanston I love falls short of its vision, and I count on the leadership to take positions and actions that are consistent with the vision we speak so that we can eventually embody that vision. I do love Evanston's unique beauty and character. And I think that this initiative to create temporary shelter with a goal of permanent affordable housing for immigrants puts Evanston where it belongs, at the forefront and as a leader in progressive and compassionate approaches. So I'm raising my voice as part of what I hope will be a citywide chorus demanding ambitious, aggressive, progressive, innovative actions that make our community the just, compassionate, safe, and welcoming place that we aspire to be.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The final speaker is Ellie Shevik.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good evening, Council and Mayor Biss. My name is Ellie Shevik. I'm a Fourth Ward resident. I know you have a lot of topics to discuss, as you do every council meeting. Today, I just wanted to speak to express my concern for the proposed plans for the beach chairs and umbrellas at the lakefront. I'd like to start by saying I'm not opposed to all beach chair rentals. If that's something our citizens need, I think that we should explore more options. But I do not believe this is the right option for our city. This concept would essentially be leasing beach space to a private company. The company, to make it a viable business model, said they needed to have 50 chairs minimum at both Lee Street and Clark Street beaches. Setting that many chairs up on our stand space, especially along the walkway as some options propose, seem to create an exclusive area and take away from many residents who use our beaches daily throughout the summer. I appreciate staff thinking of a third option that doesn't set all the chairs up at a time, but I just really love council to think about the value of our lakefront and if this makes sense for our city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes public comment for the evening and brings us to item SP1. Would someone care to make a motion relative to item SP1?
I move discussion of SP1, temporary shelter for new arrivals.
Councilmember Hadakadis moves that we discuss temporary shelter for new arrivals. Councilmember Ravel seconds. I think Allison, who's doing double duty this evening as the interim clerk, is going to make her way to the podium to give a presentation. As she does so, let me just sort of share a little bit of context here. Unlike one of the public commenters, I won't start with decades of federal policy failures, though we perhaps ought to. I'll start with what's been going on for the last year and a half or so, which is a really deranged, politically motivated effort on the part of Republicans, especially the Republican governor of Texas, to use human beings as political pawns in an effort to affect election outcomes. And that has manifested itself in the form of tens of thousands of new arrivals being sent to the Chicago area from the border. We all know this. We've all read about this. We've all read about the challenges that the city of Chicago has experienced in trying to find appropriate, humane solutions for these new arrivals, both in the form of housing and a variety of other services. Throughout that time, I think that issue has been discussed up here very, very rarely, actually, a couple times, but very rarely. But we've all been hearing about it from our constituents, I'm sure, from our constituents who asked, like, dude, we're Evanston, what are we doing here? Sometimes from our friends in the press. And I've been in touch on an ongoing basis with our government partners at the City of Chicago, Cook County, and state level. And the posture that I've represented is that this is a moral crisis that we, as the City of Evanston, have a responsibility to figure out if we can help with. And that we would try to do what we could to be a part of the solution. And so quietly, we've been looking for opportunities to do that. Allison has gone down a lot of blind alleys, looking at a lot of buildings that turned out to just be unfeasible. And so those items weren't brought here because they just didn't pass that first test. We're here tonight because two things have happened simultaneously. One is that one option has passed that first test, the building in 1020 Church. And the second is that there's a grant available at Cook County whose application is due a week from Friday on April 19th. And I mean, y'all know this. It happens all the time that staff finds an exciting intergovernmental grant opportunity and goes and does it, and then we just hear the good news later. This felt different. This felt like a kind of significant decision that if this is going to move forward, it's going to require zoning relief. It's going to require entering into a variety of contracts. It's going to require buy-in from up here and buy-in from across the community. And so my feeling was we need to have this discussion, even to give staff direction about whether or not to apply, and if so, under what circumstances to apply, how to put this thing together. And so that's the spirit in which we come this evening with, not our first idea by any means, but the first idea that's been worthy of bringing to this council, with a lot of questions answered and even more questions unanswered, and the need to get some sense from the folks up here about what we're looking for as we continue to do what I believe we should have as our unnegotiable commitment, which is to do our best to find a way to be a part of the solution. And I think if we don't do that, then we're really not living up to our community's values and our moral responsibilities. So with that, Ms. Leipziger would take it away.
Thank you, Mayor Biss. Good evening, City Council members, City Manager Stowe. I'm Allison Leipziger, the Policy Coordinator. Tonight is a little bit weird because, as Mayor Biss said, we do often, and even outside of grant opportunities, staff will prepare something quite far along and then say, what do you think about this? So it's a pretty uncomfortable place, personally, for me to be, that I'm not going to have every single answer tonight. But because this grant opportunity is due April 19th, and because this building just became known to us as available, and because this is the only regular city council meeting that we are having in between now and April 19th, here I am. So know that I will not have every single answer, but I do have a slew of staff ready in the council member library. We're going to do our best. So here it is. At about 10 days ago, we found out that 1020 Church was available. It is a 2-story building, about 5,600 square feet. It's got a mostly finished basement. It's been an office building for, I think, its entirety. I think it was built in 1923. And like any building that we have or are or will look at, it's going to need some retrofitting to turn it into a shelter. So previous buildings I've looked at, I even looked at Harley Clark. I know a lot of people laughed at me, but it's a big open space. That would have taken a lot of money to retrofit. I looked at the old Roycemore building. People laughed when I did that too. I needed PPE to go in there. That would have taken even more money to retrofit. I mentioned in the memo that this building will eventually be vacant due to our temporary move to 909 Davis. This building will take a ton of money to be retrofit. The truth is that any building we're looking at, we just don't have readily available shelters. If we did, they would be occupied. So this building in particular would need fire sprinklers on 2 of the floors, maybe 3 of the floors, but probably 2, additional showers, mold remediation, a fire escape on the 2nd floor. Just to name a few of the main issues, it would house probably between 60 and 65 people, maybe fewer, depending on the retrofitting that we had to do. Rent would be probably about $120,000 for the year. The money, and that obviously is not certain, but approximate. The money that we have available to us through the Cook County grant that we could potentially apply for, if we were to get the grant, would be able to pay for rent and some retrofitting and operating costs, but not buying the building. I know some people have asked about buying the building. I don't believe the funds could be used for that. And our plan is to partner with as many agencies as possible to get individuals the services that they need so that it's not just temporary shelter, but wraparound services as well. And I have a whole lot of other things floating through my brain, but I would like to pause there and open it up for questions or thoughts.
Councilmember Hadakaris.
Thank you, Allison. I'll share my thoughts that I think the very least we can do is apply for this grant and see what funding we are approved for and start the work towards exploring this possibility of a shelter. I'll reiterate some of what Ms. Leipzinger shared about the logistical issues of finding a suitable site. Back, I think, in last summer, it seemed like an inevitability that we might be receiving migrants here. And I was involved in some of the discussions. And really, the shower and bathroom situation is really hard to find a suitable building. You pretty much have to find an empty hotel to find, or an empty apartment building, which we know there are not very many empty apartment buildings in Evanston. So the fact that we have a site that's feasible, even for 60 people, is something we should explore. You know, we're never going to find the perfect site. You know, that opportunity would be long past. So I'm definitely in support. I think it is our responsibility to kind of show that this can be done. We're not the only suburb. You know, it is, I think, extremely unfair that this is falling all on the shoulders of the city of Chicago. And I think we have to help out a bit.
Councilmember Burns, followed by Newsmo.
Yeah, so I think my feeling around this is I think it is something we should explore. Obviously, there's a lot of information we don't have, including how much funding we could potentially even get from the grant. I don't even know if we have a range. I mean, do we have a range of what we might be able to get? And so I just think as a fiduciary agent, obviously of the city, like we need that information. I mean, I would compare this to even the Margarita Inn, which this council approved. We had a ton of information about, you know, how much we needed to raise and cost to build out, and just quite a bit of information that we don't have at this point. If there's a way to get that information without, you know, fully committing to this building, I think that would be worth doing. I have some concerns about both locations. I would love to see something closer to Chicago so that we can more effectively partner with them. We heard a lot of speakers talk about how Chicago has done so much to try to address this issue. And so I see value in us trying to locate this as close to Chicago as possible. So again, it can more easily and more effectively facilitate the collaboration I think we'll need to truly support these members in the way that they deserve to be supported. And I actually didn't know we were looking to do this. I'm sure it was a part of some discussion, whether during a council meeting or offline. But now that I know this is a direction that we're interested in to go in, I think all of us could do our part to try to see if there are any other locations that that we can consider, along with at least the one for me, because the Civic Center to me would not be a good choice at all. I wouldn't support that, but it would be good to use the time we have between now and I believe the deadline is the 19th to try to identify other locations that might be suitable for what we're trying to do here. Is this not a rolling grant? Is this something where it's a hard deadline and that's it? Or do you believe that it will become a rolling grant that we could apply for at a later point?
It is a rolling grant in that it's already open right now, and so funds are going out for those who are applying. On a call recently, I was basically told, like, please let us know your interest by April 19th.
Okay. I'm going to hold there. I'll share some other thoughts later, but that's all for now. But thank you for all your work on this.
Councilmember Newsmith, followed by Ravel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I assume you guys can hear me all right, so I will just I'll just keep talking. And I want to thank Allison for the work she's put in on this over the last few months. I've spoken with Allison, trying to brainstorm buildings that might be available. Because this humanitarian crisis really demands a response from anybody with some level of basic human empathy. And Evanston is a community that has a track record of social activism, and I would really like to think there's a way to make this happen here. But aside from the kind of emotional, empathetic side of things, from a pragmatic perspective, this problem is only going to get worse. And we're already starting to see more folks on the street, presumably migrants. And we would rather have a building for folks to go to than have people be out on the street. And that's just a pragmatic response as well. So to me, the question is not if we want to do something. The question is how, or maybe more specifically in this case, the question is where. And as the representative of a big chunk of downtown, I'm in a bit of a bind here because my heart wants to do the right thing, but I also want to acknowledge the fact that we are already punching well above our weight. Not only as a community of Evanston, but in this particular part of Evanston. And so I just cannot support an immigrant shelter at the Church Street location. We've got Margarita Inn just down the street. Margarita Inn is absolutely the right thing to do, part of the solution, fading into the background. And I'm proud of our support for that. But we also have Hilda's Place. We have Pure Services right around the corner. We have 10% of the specialized mental health rehabilitation facilities in the state. 10% of those are in Evanston. We have 2 out of 20 or so. So we are already doing more than our fair share. And we're doing this at a time when we're trying to redevelop and re-energize downtown Evanston. We're doing that successfully. We have, Underwriters Labs has relocated their corporate headquarters here. Evanston Labs, the new building where Burger King used to be, they're going to open soon. We're investing a lot of time and money in placemaking downtown. We've got a lot of fun events planned for downtown. Downtown Evanston is great. The shining North Star for our downtown revitalization is the Northlight Theater, which we're all, I think, committed to as bringing that theater back to town as soon as we can. and letting that be an economic driver, not only for downtown, but for greater Evanston as well. And Northlight, which is right next door to this property, needs to be our shining star. And I'm afraid that if we put a shelter right next door to it, we would be putting a blanket over that North Star. So I really hope there is another location that we can find in town, whether that's the Civic Center or somewhere else. I know this is not an easy task because we've been working on it for a while, but another factor that kind of compels me to be very cautious here is the open-ended nature of what this commitment might look like, as opposed to Margarita Inn, where we had a fairly good handle on what the problem was because it had long been a part of our community. We don't have a good understanding of how long this migrant crisis is going to last. And whatever we do set up, and I hope we do set something up, needs to be thoughtfully constructed, knowing that once we set something up, it's probably going to be here for a while, longer than just a year or so. So I'm probably over my time at this point, so I will turn the microphone over to somebody else and reserve comment for later. Thanks.
If you weren't timing yourself, that was impressive, because that was a 5 minute and 1 second comment. Councilmember Revelle.
Well, I too want to thank Allison for lots and lots of work over the past however many months to try to help us find a solution. I think I agree with my colleagues that, we really do want to help, because this is a really overwhelming situation. I mean, the people we're talking about, they've been traveling for months, even, more than a year, and through really desperate, dangerous situations to get here. And they deserve a place to live. They deserve an opportunity to find jobs and to get on with their lives in a really healthy way. So I really do hope we can find a way to assist. I have to echo Councilmember Nusma, though. I really don't think the Church Street location is the right one for this. And the Civic Center is not the right place either. We would be shortchanging the discussion we plan to have with the community about the long-term future of the Civic Center. So I have to rule out both of those. So I guess the question is how specific does our application for grant funding have to be? Do we have, and I assume it has to be pretty specific, so.
I certainly wouldn't feel comfortable applying for something without a specific location in mind.
Mm-hmm.
There are other services and things that we might be able to apply for. And I will go ahead and do that. The reason the Church Street building is before us as an item tonight is because, to echo what Councilmember Nusma said, I believe that any changes that we make to a building would implicate that building as a shelter for who knows how long, and so it's a big decision to put something there. Based on this discussion, it's sounding like I will likely not be putting in anything specifically for a temporary shelter, and we'll see what other services we can provide. But I would love if at some point we did find a space that's appropriate to help people, settle and feel safe while they wait for their next.
Right. Yeah. I'd like us to follow up with the group that we heard about tonight from Oak Park.
We have been working with them. Yeah.
Okay. The fact that they were able to find permanent housing, I guess, for over, for 200 migrants while they were operating a shelter or two shelters, I think is really impressive. And so to the extent we can learn from them, that would be helpful for whatever kind of program that we move forward with. So, let's see what we can manage to. Let's certainly express interest for grant funding to do our part and see how far that goes.
At this time, No one is asking to speak for the first time, so we go back to Councilmember Burns with 2.5 minutes left.
Yeah, so question I would have is you know, from what I read, it seems like if it was reported correctly that that other municipalities within the county haven't taken the state or Cook County, I think it is, up on this funding. And so that would suggest to me that it's possible it will continue rolling and there will be other opportunities to apply for it. Do you think that's the case, or?
That's certainly a possibility. I believe that at least Oak Park has applied for additional funding, but I'm not sure of other municipalities who have yet in this cycle or who plan to before April 19th, who may be having similar discussions to those that we're having tonight.
Yeah, it'd be helpful to know from Cook County whether or not they believe this funding will continue, and that gives us a longer runway to try to put something together that would have a majority of support of folks up here. So I think that would be really important to know. And I think that's all I have for now.
Okay, yeah. Thanks.
Councilmember Harris.
Thank you so much for the work that you did. I've gotten a lot of feedback, and I don't know that we have an answer right now. With the state of the world, Evanston, I know we always want to be the saviors, and I appreciate that. Born and raised here, I appreciate that. We have to have a plan, though, and I don't want to rush into receiving money and not having a plan, a well thought out plan. I watch the news occasionally when I'm visiting other people because I don't have cable. And it breaks my heart to see we've promised people something and then 3 months later they have to be evicted, and not Evanston. That's not a good way to do business. That is more disruptive, especially to a family like the young boy we saw today. And hopefully the news caught him with the mic. He might be a great newscaster one day. Did a really good job holding the mic. So I need us to have a plan. And just because the carrot is dangling doesn't mean we have to take it. I really, since my seating, have talked about what is the plan? What is the long-term plan? So figuring that out, because if the grant doesn't come through and we've promised people or even made the illusion of a promise, we see the news is here. So people hear what they want to hear. We need to have a plan and be able to execute it and be able to, I represent a community that isn't sure about this right now, what that means. And we keep talking about tax dollars. And while it isn't about money, it is at the end of the day. How will we sustain this? Not how do we start it? How do we sustain it in an ethical and a humanitarian way? So those are the questions that I have. What is the 6-month plan? What is the 2-year plan? What is the 3-year plan? Because if they're here, they're not going back. We wouldn't encourage them to go back. So we have to figure out how to make them Evanston residents without any animosity. And many emails that I saw today do have animosity in it. And that would not be fair to inviting somebody into our home and saying, how long are you going to stay? And that's where we are in a lot of the emails that I saw, being honest and real. There were some that were very welcome, stay as long as you need to. But there were quite a bit of calls that said, how long? Why are we doing this? We have homeless people here that we cannot accommodate. We have people that were born and raised here that we cannot accommodate. What are we doing? So I need a plan to be able to turn around and tell my constituents, this is what we're doing. This is how we're using your tax dollars. So everybody can get on board. And I think everybody wants to get on board. We just have to figure out what that looks like and feel good about it. Not be forced. That isn't the right word, but that's the word that's coming to mind right now. So I would not be in favor of here. We just said we can't even work here. So I would not put somebody where we can't work. and Church Street. I have to respect my fellow council person who says, I'm overwhelmed right now. When a sponge is overwhelmed, it doesn't collect water. So we have to figure out what this looks like for the community. But it's heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking. So when we have a plan and we can do our very best at that plan, and that I think involves a little bit of community input. I think we have some very creative minds in our community who can help. The young lady who said she started a non-for-profit. How does that work? What do we do? So right now that's it's a no, but working towards a yes. But thank you for the work that you did. The no is no indication on the work that you did, for sure.
There's a few people on to speak. I do want to just express, I got you. This is fun. I think I want to express disagreement with everybody who's spoken on both sides of the dais, on both sides of the issue. I think we have an emergency now, and I agree we might have the situation for a long time, but that we don't know. We do know that the emergency is at least in part politically motivated, that there's a convention happening in Chicago in a few months. There's an election happening in November, a few months after that, and that is motivating the individuals who are actually generating this crisis in the Chicago area. And so I am, unlike some speaking in support, I'm not of the view that we need to authorize this in perpetuity or stand it up with the expectation it's going to go on in perpetuity. In fact, if you look at some of what's been set up in Chicago, they've been explicitly temporary with we'll set this address up as a shelter for new arrivals for a year. And by the way, we're saying right now what other use it's going to have in a year. So on the one hand, I don't feel that we need to be putting ourselves into a place of figuring out the long-term funding stream, staff allocation, and so forth. On the other hand, I do think that the emergency that is presenting itself to us right now doesn't really give us the luxury to just kind of wait until the day when the perfect opportunity presents itself. So back to second cracks, Councilmember Hedekaris with 3.5 minutes left.
So just a question for Ms. Leipziger. So the city of Chicago is not dictating what type of folks we're going to be housing. So from what I understand, there are shelters for single men, there's shelters for families, there are shelters for women and children. Can that be dictated by us?
I believe so, yes. Unfortunately, there are lots of people to choose from. I think, for example, we have an ADA issue in this building, but there are more than 65 able-bodied new arrivals who would be happy to be there. So, we don't have to put those limits on.
And one of the things, me personally, when we were discussing the situation with Connections and the Margarita Inn, it was very important to me that it was a housing first model, and for a homeless shelter that makes sense. For what is basically transitional housing for new arrivals, we can kind of dictate because there's such an overwhelming need. Mm-hmm. I think the city of Chicago would be willing to get any help, and we can narrow that scope to what we think our city can handle. I know we have to do our due diligence, but I sometimes get frustrated when we always go to worst case scenario. I personally would like, if there are 20 families like the family out in the hallway, I don't think that would be a blight on the neighborhood. I think, I've been asked more often than not, why aren't we doing something by residents? And a lot of times, my answer is like, look, we can't even build affordable housing for Evanstonians. This is an opportunity where we're getting money gifted to us. And I think, Mayor Biss had a good point that a lot of this crisis is being exacerbated by political motivations, and there is a finite amount of that. So I would urge my colleagues to hopefully support this. You know, it'd be very hard to turn down grant money once we receive it, but we really, you know, this is really early on. We don't know. Renovating a building, I don't think is going to happen in 2 weeks, probably not even 6 months. So we do have lead time to see what the money situation is. In a wild turn of events, there could maybe be enough money. I don't know what the scale of money is to, like, the state of the Civic Center right now. I would not want to house anybody here.
No.
But we just don't know enough. So I'd be in support of further exploring this.
Yeah, and it's just one thing I really do. Thank you for saying that. I really want to clarify. There's been some like, how could you put people in the Civic Center if it's not even safe to work in? We would not put people in the Civic Center in its current state. So.
This time we'll move on now with third cracks with Councilmember Burns with a minute 40 left.
Also wondered if by using the money from Cook County, would it prohibit us from also housing longtime Evanston residents in this facility? Could we do
With the Cook County grant money, that would be prohibited. It is just for new arrivals.
Okay. And the reason why I say this, and I want everybody to really hear this very clearly, is that Evanston is different from almost name any other kind of northern city to us to the north. Like, because we are a diverse community in every way you can think of, we have displacement here. We are in an active, ongoing housing crisis here right now, today. I always say if a bell rang every time a family moved out, at really no fault of their own, just because they couldn't afford it, we'd really have the same urgency that I think we have today about this issue. And I think we need to figure out how to have that urgency with our crisis that is ongoing. And it's a big issue. And I've tried to make attempts both in public meetings, but also in closed meetings to try to get us to even use excess reserve funds to really advance our fight against our housing issues in a meaningful way. And it's been turned down. And so if that's turned down, when we had all the information that this council would have needed to make the decision, we knew costs, we had everything planned out. I don't think it's fair to expedite this when we really do have very little information when compared to other proposals that we've reviewed as a council. And so just to make it clear where I'm at is I would love to get more information. I wish we knew exactly what the cost burden to the city would look like. We don't know. We don't even know how much we could get from this grant, which to me, and this isn't on city staff, is a bit strange. Usually with grants, they give you a range, like they'll say up to this amount. We don't even have that, right? We wouldn't in any circumstance support something like that. We never, to my knowledge, have, and I don't think we should do that here. That being said, I do think this issue is as urgent as our ongoing housing crisis in Evanston, which is why, for me, I would love to try to get more information from Cook County. I would like to use the time between now and the 19th to see if we can identify other suitable buildings, especially because now we can all work on this together. Again, I did not know we were actively pursuing this. I remember some conversations about it several months ago, but if I would have known this was like an ongoing and active pursuit of the city, I would have absolutely involved myself more closely in trying to help identify property. We all know many landlords through our work here, and we can reach out and figure out what that may look like. So it would be great if we could use this facility, this center, to also serve Evanston residents, if we could do it jointly in the same space. Because again, one of the things that we struggle with here in Evanston is what happens when someone does not have a place to stay. They're going to be displaced from Evanston. We don't have a lot of temporary options for them before that we can find them permanent, stable housing. So much so that one of the things we usually do is they stay in an extended stay in Skokie for however long until we're able to find something, and sometimes we don't. So I just want to emphasize that again, we're not, I don't even want to name any cities, but they come to mind where they're not as diverse as us, right? They're not serving the same community that we are. They're not addressing, they don't have a housing crisis to address at all. I would love to see those communities stepping up in a way that I doubt they will. But again, I think this is something that's worth exploring. We just have to figure out exactly how to do that. And we should seek as much information as we can before the decision is made.
Okay. The only person seeking to speak is Councilmember Nusma. Your time is up, but go ahead and just if you could try to be efficient.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll keep it quick here. One quick comment and then a question for Ms. Leipzinger. As has hopefully been clear through the discussion tonight, it's not Connections for the Homeless that is driving this request. So I just wanted to make that clear. I've received some communications from constituents that are attacking Connections. Connections was brought into this just within the last few days as a potential partner, but this problem is being driven at a federal level and at a and really at a local level here by this grant. So that's the point I wanted to make. And then a question for Ms. Leipzinger. We have a very active and engaged interfaith community. So I am wondering, to what extent have they been involved in the discussion about our community's response to the migration crisis?
It's a great question. As many of you know, our interfaith community is really integral in housing folks who are currently unhoused throughout the winter, and their capacity is sort of taken up by this. We called a handful of houses of worship that were either for sale or maybe for rent or whatever. Nothing panned out, and because most houses of worship who would be interested are already participating in winter sheltering and also need their facilities during the day, there wasn't an obvious place where we could house folks where they wouldn't have to get up and move all of their stuff every single day.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. At this time, no one else is requesting to speak. I think a few summaries of this evening are easy to give. One is there's interest in continuing to explore things. One is that there's, to state the obvious questions that we're all curious about. One is that there's some real, I think there's pretty serious concerns about the locations that have been proposed. I guess the question that I think has not been answered exactly definitively, although you sort of indicated that you think that it has Allison been directed to stop trying to figure out what it would take to make the 1020 church location work? Or is she been directed to like, hey, we've got some concerns, but keep exploring this and figure out what we'd be talking about before making a final decision? Because I think that, I'm guessing that fork in the road is going to be pretty important for your time allocation over the course of the next couple of weeks. Is that right?
That's correct.
So I think we've heard, I guess I would say 3 of the 5 of you have been pretty clear on that point. So I guess maybe if council members Burns and Harris wanted to weigh in on that question, are you continue to have 1020 church in the mix as you figure something out camp, or are you in the thumbs down on 1020 church, just look for other options camp?
I know you're considering this, Mayor. I am a little uncomfortable because we don't have a quorum. And because of this particular decision, I feel like direction kind of feels like it's also a vote, and so I just want to be careful there.
Great point. Let me ask the Corporation Counsel to weigh in, please. Thank you for that. It's important to get this right.
Thank you, Mayor Biss, members of City Council, Alex Ruggie, Interim Corporation Counsel. We're not voting and taking any final action. So I think if we direct staff to follow some leads and then to come back to City Council for any final decisions, that would not be a violation of OMA.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess the hardest question though is whether or not like you pursue Church Street and tell the Cook County that we want to pursue Church Street, so we're going to apply. That feels like more than direction. That feels like a vote, essentially, like more. You know,
Well, just
so I don't know if you want that type, but
so I guess
yeah.
here's what and I'm not Allison, but but I started the sentence, so I'll keep talking. It seems to me that okay, I'll speak for myself. I don't feel like I know what my vote would be because of the basic stuff you raised. How much money will the renovation cost? How much money is available from Cook County? I think the questions that Councilmember Hadakadis raised are important. Who do we as a council want to construct a shelter for? How long do we want it to be constructed for? I think these are questions that some answers might lead me to say, great, let's move forward, and some might lead me to say, no, let's not. And so the direction that I would be looking for if I were Allison was keep trying to figure that stuff out so we might then know enough to then make a decision later, or view what's happening tonight as the decision that no, it's just 1020 churches ain't it. So don't keep trying to learn about that stuff.
I guess for me, I don't think we should stop doing anything we've been doing, because that again would feel more like something that requires a vote.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would just keep everything you've been doing on the table, for me at least, and pursue responses to those questions.
Okay.
And then also, I'm going to work to try to identify other opportunities, other buildings that
That's great.
That might be viable. And I have, I think, a good enough understanding that I won't waste your time. I won't send you stuff to
Send me everything. I keep
sift
saying
through yourself.
no stone unturned.
I'll do some
Bobby,
of that myself.
she put on PPE to walk into Roycemore. Like send her whatever you
Oh,
got.
I didn't catch that. That's what you were saying.
Send me everything.
Okay, I got you then. I got you. So that would be my my thoughts.
Great.
Yeah.
Councilmember Hadakadis?
Yeah, I think the key thing is knowing, like, from where I sit, we can always turn down the grant money if it doesn't make sense. Like, as much as I feel personally right now that some sort of transitional housing at 1020 Church would make sense, if they came back with a number that would be a cost to the city, like, I would not be in favor of that. If they came back with some huge number, then I might reconsider the Civic Center. There's a level of uncertainty that, like, as much as I'm advocating for us to go forward, like, that doesn't mean I'm going to vote yes for whatever comes back. I mean, it's up to us to set the parameters and know what, makes sense for our community. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. And also, I just want to mention that this would have to go through the Land Use Commission and would come back before council. So this is by no means, the final, unless, again, as the mayor said, unless everybody's like, this is not it, no matter what answers you get, 1020 is not the way to go, then there are a lot more opportunities down the line to weigh in.
We have a meeting when is our next council?
So it's a bit awkward. Our next meeting is April 29th. So there may be a need for a special meeting. There may be a need for like a public memo that gets sent out to us and the world that invites feedback. There may be, it may not be the case that we get from tonight to May 19th without some other effort to get more input from the community and the council. But I think we've done our best with a little short-staffed and when we're barely at quorum or not even at quorum in the room with a difference of opinion, it's hard to extrapolate to the whole council also. So I appreciate the sense of discussion. I think people are trying hard to grapple with an intractable problem that's been, a problem that shouldn't exist, that shouldn't have been hurled at the Chicago area. Now that it's here, shouldn't be addressed without more significant federal resources. There's a million different reasons why this shouldn't be happening, but I appreciate the fact that given that it is this group of this community is going to try to figure out what the right thing is, not to lurch into something, not to do something just because it feels right, but to figure out if it's possible for us to help, because I think the alternative to that is just not right.
I just also want to quickly say, just to be fair and to be clear, this was just for discussion tonight,
Yeah.
right? No matter what. And
Correct.
so I kind of dove into it as if either way we would have needed something to come back for action. So I just want to make that clear that this was only for discussion. It likely would have played out like this no matter what, whether we had a quorum or not. And I guess at this point, we're just seeking more information so that staff has what they need to maybe bring something back for action with more detail.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that is the end of our non-action oriented agenda. And so the plan, oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Newsome, your hand's up again?
Yeah, sorry. I just like to weigh in on as we contemplate which fork we're going to proceed here. We're going to proceed with, in respect of staff time and energy. I don't think the ultimate solution here is going to be 1020 Church. We don't have a full quorum, but if we look at who is not in attendance tonight and whose vote will be required or would be required to make this happen, I don't think 1020 Church is approvable. And I would not want to ask staff to devote a lot of time and energy investigating an option which is not going to move forward. So I think our time is better spent continuing to look for a facility that would enjoy broad support of the council, and would rather have staff focus on that. That's all. Thanks.
So thank you. So again, that concludes the portion of our agenda that we're allowed to do tonight. So here is the plan that I want to state for both the community and the council. We had a robust bunch of other things we were planning on doing tonight. We can't do any of them. Two of them, items A1 and A2, that's approval of the BMO Harris Amazon credit card activity and approval of the City of Evanston payroll bills list and credit card activity, are indeed emergencies. And so the city manager will utilize emergency authorization to act on those items. Everything else on the agenda, in the opinion of the Corporation Council, is not an emergency, and therefore will simply await the April 29th agenda. I would just sort of preview that by suggesting that maybe it might be a good idea to suspend the rules a bunch and do a bunch of intro and action on April 29th so that ordinances that were initially slated to be introduced tonight will still pass on the same calendar that they were anticipated to pass on, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And again, with appreciation for everyone's thoughtful and careful and sensitive digging into this really important and difficult issue, the April 8th non-meeting of the Evanston City Council stands adjourned. Oh, and since adjournments don't matter anyway, let's do call the wards. We can do that without a quorum. We'll begin with Councilmember Newsome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Assuming I test negative for COVID, I will have 4th Ward office hours Saturday morning from 10 to 12, 10 a.m. to noon we're going to meet at the Tapestry Station on Main Street, the new residential project at the former site of Boat Fabrics. Thanks.
Councilmember Burns.
Yeah, as I've said before, when I feel necessary, I'm going to use time during Call of the Awards to kind of provide people an update on the community members living in the 3 buildings on Wesley, at the end of Wesley. The update that I have for today, though, those folks, people may know that the Equity Empowerment Commission sent a letter to, I want to say, to Manager Stowe, I would imagine. And I mentioned during last Call of the Awards that the city will respond to it, and I'm sure I know we will. But one, I want to offer to attend the next Equity Empowerment Commission so we can have a conversation about the letter and some of their recommendations. The reason why I've tried to get people to the point where they can slow down and ask more questions and not feel as though with very little information they have it all figured out and they know exactly what the city has and hasn't done. Is because what I've found is most people don't have enough information, and it's apparent when I read the recommendations that even some of our equity empowerment commissioners, and being fair to them, some who are new don't have all the information because they've recommended things, most of which we're already in the process of working on in some form or fashion. And so again, I've said this many times, you can be in solidarity with the Wesley residents without being in opposition to someone or something else. It's possible. You don't need to immediately attack the city or find someone that want to attack at all to be in solidarity with the residents. Because again, time and time again, what is happening is the information that people are either getting or beliefs that they have are not based on facts. They're not based on real evidence, that is documented that you can touch and kind of analyze for yourself. So again, I would love to be invited to the Equity Empowerment Commission to work with them on solutions to identify what those may be. But again, just reviewing the letter, where they're proposing things that the city is already committed to doing and is working on in some form or fashion. So, but I do thank them for deliberating on the issue, and I look forward to joining the next meeting, hopefully. Thank you.
Councilmember Revelle.
No report.
Councilmember Hadakaris.
Ninth Ward meeting tomorrow night at Robert Crown at the BC room. We'll be talking about Envision Evanston 2045.
Councilmember Harris.
Good evening. We had a very robust 2nd, 5th, and 8th Ward ward meeting a couple weeks ago, and the 2nd Ward will have our next meeting April 25th, Thursday at 6:30 p.m. at Robert Crown Hybrid. That's it. Thank you.
And now I think it would be appropriate to, for the second time, adjourn the April 8th Evanston City Council meeting that wasn't. We'll see you all on April 29th.